kids are getting pretty wild in there, man. Is that safe?
Yeah, they're fine. I've got their keys.
Yesterday, talking about the Americans before the
Hey, have a beer, man. You deserve it.
It's not worth it. Underage drinking risks everything you're working for.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to the Safe Streets Coalition meeting. My name is Chris Schultz and I'll be your host today. I want to thank you all so much for being here to help make Topeka and Shawnee County the safest capital community in the country. We'd also like to thank our friends from City 4 who are going to be broadcasting this on City 4 so that this is accessible to anyone in the community, and you can also find it on their YouTube channel. So thank you to them. Let's give them a round of applause. Let's get this thing started with some energy here. Absolutely. All right, now on your tables, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started here. The yellow sheets, if you'd all please sign in here to make sure we can get the information about the meeting to you. We'd appreciate that. As well, if you're a visitor to the coalition, if you could please just raise your hands. I want to see a show of visitor. We got a lot of great visitors here. Put your hand down, Chief, right? But yeah, if you're interested in joining the coalition, we gather the first Wednesday of every month here at the Great Overland Station. Please check in with Judy. She'll get you signed up. She's right back in the back waving her hand around right there. Right there she is. And we'll get you signed up. So let's have a nice round of applause for all of our guests here who have joined us. All right, and now we'll get this thing started with our champion. So let's please welcome Cindy Patton to the front here, and if you're on the Character Council, please join us up at the front.
Okay, so we've got Chief Cochran, we've got Sheriff Jones here today, we have Shelley Bueller, and of course our main sponsor, Jamie Hornbaker. I'm just drawing a blank. And so today we're going to honor Fritz Martinez. Fritz, would you come on up? Okay, and Jamie, you want to read that, and then you can hand it to the mayor, or no, the chief, to hand that to him.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, well, again, it's such an honor to be able to present this award, and one of the things at State Farm we really pride ourselves in doing in the community is being good neighbors, and it's such an honor to be able to in turn recognize our good neighbors that make Topeka so wonderful. The Topeka Character Recognition Council of Topeka, Shawnee County recognizes Frederick Fritz Martinez. As the strength of our nation is dependent upon the health and safety of its communities, the strength of our community is dependent on the character of its citizens. Topeka City of Character and Safe Streets Coalition of Topeka and Shawnee County recognize Frederick Fritz Martinez. Frederick Fritz Martinez was clearing snow from the driveways in the Rolling Meadows neighborhood. While he was shoveling snow on the porch of a woman's house, he heard someone yelling for help. Fritz went to the front door and opened the door and found the woman lying on the floor. He picked her up, got her comfortable in a chair, and while he went next door for help, an ambulance was called and she is recuperating. If it had not been for the quick response from Fritz, she may have laid on the floor for several days. Thank you so much, Fritz, for your character and for demonstrating really what it is to be a Topekan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. We just want to remind you that the word of the month today is alertness for the month of March, and that means being aware of what is taking place around me so that I can respond appropriately. And if you have a nomination for somebody for a person of character, be sure and get that nomination either to topekacharacter.org or Safe Streets, and they will make sure that we process that award. So, and we also need kids. So one of the awards that we have is sponsored by A1 Lock and Key, Keys to Character, and so we'd love to have anybody, if you know of a child that has done something really special that deserves character recognition, be sure and get that to us too as well. Thank you.
How about another round of applause for Fritz, our hero this month? All right, and now for a little bit of business. We need to approve the minutes from our February meeting, so if we'll look for a motion from the floor to approve those minutes. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor of approval, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, the minutes are approved. Now please welcome the Director of Safe Streets, Christy Pankratz, for a staff update. She loves that applause too, gotta give it.
All right, it's great to see everyone here today, and we've got some new and returning faces, which I'm extra happy to see. We've got some exciting stuff going on here at the Coalition that we're going to get into a little bit more. But first, I'm not sure how many of you know the actual Safe Streets and PARS cumulative staff. So Safe Streets is a division under Prevention and Recovery Services. So we've got several different staff that do different things, and for the first time in a long time, we've got all of them here today. So that's extra special for me. Our director is Michelle Voth. Michelle, would you raise your hand? Awesome. We have Lynn Smith. I'm guessing you guys probably all know him. He does a lot of our prevention work. We've got Dana Schwartz. She's our licensed addictions counselor. We have Nicole, who is our community and outreach specialist. And we have Judy Wilson, who is in the back, who is our Safe Streets and National Night Out coordinators. And I made a mistake. Irene Caballero, she is our bilingual community mobilizer, is unable to be here today. But let's give her a round of applause anyway. Thanks, Commissioner Bueller. So we have a lot of people here who are very dedicated towards different initiatives in our community and moving it forward. And a couple things that we have going on with upcoming dates are we have loss prevention and a joint banking meeting for fraud coming up in partnership with the police department. We have a safe property management training coming up March 27th. This is great for landlords, property workers, or people who are thinking about getting into becoming a landlord. And guess what's next? We haven't talked about National Night Out in what, about a month or so? That is actually August 11th, but our very first planning meeting is April 18th. And what are we gonna do if we hit 100 neighborhoods, Sheriff? That was 80 neighborhoods. We gotta raise the bar here. Was it airplane? Is that what I heard? I'll bring it back.
I'll take whatever challenge he's got.
Ooh, okay. The 18th, we will issue our challenge. And then we also have a drug trends training coming up. Lynn Smith is the one who leads that one. So we have a lot of good activities coming up. Encourage you to see Judy in the back for more information on these. And information on what Safe Streets has done over the last 26-ish days, give or take, is on the back of your agenda as well. So thank you all very much for being here.
There's the dance right there. All right. And well, how about another round of applause? Christy needs a round of applause as well. All right. And now for our partner updates from the Topeka Police Department, please welcome Sergeant Dan Wilson.
Thank you. First, we're going to look at our city violent crime. As you can see, all the blue on there, a lot of those numbers are excellent. And then, as you can see by the total, violent crime's down. Also, month to month, it's down, and week to week. So we're trending in the right direction with that one. And if you'll see on the second slide, the property crime's not far behind. We have a few numbers that are up a little bit there, but most of those are all in the blue. Again, help us out with the vehicle burglaries, lock your cars, remove anything that you think or a bad guy would think is valuable, to include firearms. We're still seeing that. But like I said, all those numbers look really good. On our slides for this month, our Explorers program competed in Tennessee at a national competition. I think they were gone about a week. A couple first places, a fourth place, and a fifth place. This is an excellent program where our youth can interact with us and learn a lot of skills and life skills. Chief Cochran talked last time. We've now held 2 of the Safe Church training sessions. We've had well over 200 people attend. We've gotten to meet a lot of great people and share a lot of good ideas, and it's just been a wonderful success. And lastly, help us out on those numbers. Don't leave your car running unattended. Remove your keys. Remote start's always a good option, and don't be a victim. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. One of the things that the Explorer program, when they went down there, as a lot of you know who know me, behavioral health is one of those passions that I kind of have, and we have a behavioral health unit, and our CIT program is very vibrant. But what's kind of impressive that I pat myself on the back is the Explorers went down, they took first place in crisis intervention team scenario dealing with behavioral health issues. So that's kind of cool, I think, but I'll take that one. I didn't have enough, but I brought like 20, and hopefully so a couple of them got put on tables, or I guess Chrissy's got it. But one of the things, Dan put a lot of numbers up there, but this is just a quick fact sheet. You have to share at the table, but we've had 5 homicides in the city of Topeka. All 5 of those are been cleared, but the reason those have been cleared is that partnership that we have with our community, and building that trust and relationship where people are willing to give us information, cooperate with us, but that's why we have that clearance rate. And we've really got one thing going on within the department and throughout the city of Topeka, and that's a gun safety initiative and reduction in gun violence. But on that front page, one of the things, we've had 16 guns taken out of car burglaries in the city of Topeka. And what that means is we're putting guns into the hands of the criminals, the people who are trying to stop. And so when you leave a gun in a car, you're just leaving a potential weapon for a future crime in your vehicle. And we know it's easy. We get complacent. And one of the bad things is good things or bad things, I don't know. We have open carry in the state of Kansas. But what happens is people will go to the mall, or they'll go to a Dick's or something like that, and they get out of the car and they put their gun in their car, and people see them do that, or they see the holster that they used to have when they go into the stores. So those are just cues to people, the bad guys out there, that they key on. So when they see you put your gun away, or they see an empty holster and they see you get out of a car, the assumption is, it's kind of like when a woman gets out of a car without a purse, then if you're watching them, the thought is, well, that purse is in that car somewhere. And so even if you have just women, if you just carry a little wallet, just something that's kind of visible, the bad guys may think, okay, the purse is not in the car. But 16 guns taken out of cars. What's really kind of sad is out of those, only 31% of those were forced entries into the cars. That means the cars were left unlocked. And so that makes it even easier for the bad guys to get a gun. So, but in 2017, we took 431 guns off the street. And so far this year, we've already taken 64. So, like I said, we have a big gun initiative going and a gun safety program, and that's one of the things that we're really working on. So that's all I really had to say. Anybody have any questions? Nice.
Thank you, Chief Cochran, Sergeant Wilson, and how about a round of applause for our entire Topeka Police Department for all the work they do. And now from our Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, please welcome Deputy Cochran.
Thanks again. I'm going to talk about our youth academies that we're hosting here at the Sheriff's Office. We can go and flip to the next slide. So this year at the Sheriff's Office, we're going to have 3 youth academies. One will be at Seaman, one will be at Shawnee Heights, and then we're also going to do one at Washburn Rural this year, which will be the first year that we've done one at Washburn Rural. These are some pictures that show kind of what the campers go through. It's open to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. The camp is The camp is free. It runs from 8 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday, and it culminates with a pizza party on Friday for the campers and their families that we invite. We'll invite them to have pizza with us. But as you can see, we'll have the SWAT team come out, do a demonstration. The K-9 unit will do a demonstration. We'll do a taser demonstration. We also have Lynn Smith from PARS. He'll come out and give a presentation to the kids as well. The fire department, AMR, and then probably the most fun thing the kids get to do all week is they do get to play dodgeball with us, and we'll do campers versus the deputies that are working. We'll have all of our SROs with the Sheriff's Office. We'll be hosting this camp, so we'll be playing dodgeball against them and then demonstrating all this stuff. During the K-9 one, we will have one of our deputies suit up in a bite suit, so the kids will get to see a K-9 take off. After one of the deputies, it'll take the deputy down. The kids do enjoy that. We also, and that's probably one of the other fun things the kids get to see. We will also have some non-law enforcement stuff as well. We'll have somebody from the Topeka Zoo bring out about 4 or 5 animals. That way the kids can see some animals. It takes a couple hours. Sometimes they'll let them pet the animals, depending on what kind of animal it is, or touch them and do all that kind of stuff. And this year also, last year we did it as well, where we reached out to the Boys and Girls Club. They reached out to us, and we go to the Abbott Community Center and do a one-day condensed camp with them. And then also the Montera Boys and Girls Club, we went out there as well and did a condensed one-day camp as well. Questions? Kind of went through that fast. In our camps, we'll run, it's the first week of June, second week of June, and the third week of June. One at Shawnee Heights, Seaman, Shawnee Heights, and then Washburn Rural. Thank you.
And I'm going to jump in real quick and simply just talk about the program. What we see across the United States is about building relationship with our youth. I know the police department, we try and do those type of things, and I know Ron Brown here from 501, we all try to do those type of things for our kids, but what we see of this right here, it shows what we are about in law enforcement, but more than anything else, we talk about kids making the right choice, making good choices and being good citizens, because young kids grow up to be older citizens. So we're trying to do that on our partnership with the law enforcement here is trying to build those relationships on a positive side instead of a negative, so that we can make our job much easier there. So I commend our folks to do that. I will say one thing, is that he talked about we play dodgeball. Our deputies, and I always challenge them, the young kids, our deputies have never lost dodgeball. Never. And it bet not happen. So there you go.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you. Let's have a nice round of applause for our Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. All right, and to introduce our special guest speaker today, please welcome Christy back up here.
All right. Well, over the last, I want to say about 5 years that I've been here, our coalition has focused a lot on different crime prevention education and what we can do to disseminate information out into the public. I am pleased to announce that we are going to be kind of going on a new endeavor now. We have been hearing a lot about human trafficking over the last few months especially. We had Amber Cunningham with the Topeka Rescue Mission here last month. And what we are going to be doing is really looking at this issue moving forward. And Mr. Barry Feaker has been involved with our coalition over the years, and I am pleased to announce that he is returning to us to help us lead this initiative. So Barry, please come on up and join us. You're no longer a guest speaker. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Well, good afternoon, and you know, it's really good to be back. Some of you, looking around the room here, got a little more gray hair than when I was here last. At least you got hair. So some of you were with us in 2007 when we initiated the Safest Capital City initiative. This was a high and lofty goal that we were going to attempt to be a safer community, but we were going to experience coming together, a journey of pulling us together to around safety issues like maybe we had never done before. There were basically 12 different cities that we were in competition with, Little Rock being the largest, and I don't remember what was the smallest. And throughout the process of this, we actually were able to score ourselves as second safest capital city, only second to Lansing, Michigan, which was number 1. And to this day, I still contest that they cheat. And so, anyway, but you know, I heard someone say one time, it's not about the results as much as it's about the journey. And the journey really proved, I think, that Safe Streets was and still is one of those key organizations in our community that's helped the rest of the community to see some things that we need to see. If you recall, in 2007, that was before Heartland Vision. It was before Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods. It was before NOTO. It was before the Greater Topeka Partnership. It was before Momentum 2022. And it was definitely before NetReach over in Highcrest. Actually, this coalition helped birth that initiative. And now, nearly 5 years later, we're transitioning that whole net idea into a new view and new understanding. And so, before I go any further, I just wanted you to see this. I think it's a really awesome PSA that just talks about community service. So if you will take a look at this, and then we'll go from there.
When you work in the service industry, you see a lot of homes in all sorts of areas. Meet a lot of people and even pets. Out here, you have to take your job seriously. Always be on the lookout to find better ways to safeguard the people you serve.
What kind of shop do you guys got going here?
Tool and die shop.
Great. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thanks.
Or the products that protect their homes. Or services to get their homes running just right. You work hard every day because you don't want to miss a thing.
Like you just did.
Do I have your attention?
Workers who are in people's homes on a day-to-day basis are a critical part of identifying potential cases of human trafficking and combating this horrific crime. To look for, you can help bring an end to human trafficking.
As service workers, you play an important role in the detection of human trafficking. You are on the front lines, in homes and in neighborhoods. Now that you know some of the signs to look for, you can help save those who are being victimized. Together, we can make a difference. If you identify someone you think may need help, please contact the National Human Trafficking Resource Center at 888-373-7888. This is a toll-free hotline that's available to answer calls from anywhere in the country, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and all calls are confidential. On behalf of the Michigan State Police, thank you for your help in keeping our community safe.
Bet you didn't see that coming. I didn't the first time I saw it either. There's an old saying, it's in theater, that says, "My eyes cannot see what my mind does not understand or comprehend." In other words, if we don't understand a thing, we may have it go right past us and not see us. And so what we're going to talk about today, and what we're going to be talking about in the days ahead, is something pretty serious. It's called a declaration of war. Why do people go to war? Well, one reason they go to war is some idiots couldn't agree with each other, and they started giving each other trouble, and some ideologies were challenged, and so next thing you know, a lot of innocent people are hurt. That's one reason people go to war. Another reason people go to war is to protect the vulnerable. When they see something happening to somebody that is an innocent or a vulnerable person, then they say that's got to stop. And so today I want you to know that we're going to be talking about the Safe Streets Coalition in partnership with a new organization that is unfolding now called Freedom Now USA. And I want to attempt to walk you through exactly what that means as we go along here today. Now let's talk about human trafficking just in kind of general. It's a popular subject. It's kind of been popular globally for a very long time. It's gotten popular actually here in the United States. But do we really understand? We've tended to think about it being prostitution, servitude, forced labor around the world, and there are millions of numbers globally that fit into those categories. Millions of numbers globally. As a matter of fact, it said today there are more slaves in the world today than there ever has been before. Slaves. People who are forced to do something against their will. It's estimated that there are anywhere from several thousand to several 100,000 to more people that are in that situation in the United States of America. Now, I want to say we're not going to hang on any numbers here because we don't know. And here's the reason we don't know. The eyes cannot see what the mind does not understand, and we're going to attempt to understand something. We're going to try to understand something in our own community as well as understand what other people are seeing around. We also have pictures of this around the world. This is part of the April of 2014, 276 Nigerian schoolgirls that were kidnapped. And they were taken by these guys, Boko Haram. We heard about that in the news. We knew that they were captivated for well over a year, and people worked tirelessly to free them. What we also found out during that time is that the Boko Haram actually human trafficked a number of these young girls. Boko Haram, the meaning of it in Islam is Western civilization is forbidden. These young girls were being taught American ways. They were being taught in the American educational system, and Boko Haram says we're going to stop that. Some people have said Boko Haram is more violent and disgusting than ISIS, and that's saying a whole lot. And so I happened to meet a lady who was part of the rescue effort to rescue some of these young girls. She said to God one day, she said, God, show me who to pray for. And she believed he said, pray for the folks in Nigeria, pray for those girls. And she said, God, I will do that, but please don't send me to Nigeria. And so the next thing she knows, she's in Nigeria on the front ends of this. And when I met with her about 6 or 7 months ago, she was in my office over here at the rescue mission. Somebody brought us together, and she said, I just came back from Nigeria, and I saw 4 little girls, bodies, who had been brutally raped and had their heads cut off. And she was traumatized. And she said, I don't want to go back. I said, I don't blame you that you don't want to go back. I said, but what did God call you to do? What did God call you to do? Today, that lady is still on the front lines, and she's part of the release of these girls. Now, we heard in the media that they're all back home, and they're not. They're not because of government issues that are going on. Okay, that's going on globally. Let's talk about the history of the United States. We've had our own issues with slavery for sure. As a matter of fact, from 1619 in Jamestown to 1865, 246 years this country enslaved people against their will because of their color, because we wanted to do something that was going to be able to profit our land, to be able to have an economic engine, to be able to use other people for our own favor. Now, one of the things, and you can't see that very well, but that's a map of the United States. Right in the center of it's the Kansas Territory. The Kansas Territory was one of those areas in this great country that we call the United States of America today that said, that's not right. As a matter of fact, this state and this city were historical in the abolishing of slavery in the United States. It was guys like William Lloyd Garrison that came along in 1831. Matter of fact, January 1st, 1831, well before 1865, to establish the first edition of the Liberator. The Liberator was birthed out of Boston, back in the days where they had the typeset. And it was a paper that went across the nation to say, this is an atrocity. People should not be kept as slaves. And that particular paper lasted until December 29th, 1865, before finally the 13th Amendment was realized. We'll talk about that in a minute. That was 35 years of saying over and over and over again, William Lloyd Garrison, coming along with Harriet Beecher Stowe, coming along with Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave who would later partner with him, and his life was in jeopardy his whole time of his whole life, working together to point out this is not right. The people in the South were using it because it was an economic engine. Today, if we're going to get realistic, we're going to say that this country was built on the backbones of the South and the economic engine that went globally, and today we benefit because of the slaves that made it happen. Doesn't make it right. It's just what it is. It's what it is. That's unfortunately part of our heritage, whether we like it or not. However, during those 35 years, there were some pretty cool examples. Anybody know that building? It's the United States Courthouse. United States Courthouse at 401 Southeast Quincy here in Topeka. On the front side of that, you would notice the United States Post Office if you go down Kansas Avenue. Everybody goes, well, they know where the post office is. But if you go around the corner on Quincy and across the street, you'll see the new federal building. We would call it new anymore. That was the United States Courthouse. What you don't know is back during the days of abolition, Topeka, Kansas, in its Bleeding Kansas days, was known as a place that slaves could come and be hidden. And that was the site, exact site, of one of the Underground Railroad homes that actually is recorded to have 300 slaves that came from the South up that were protected there right on that site, and then later were able to move safely up into Canada. There were other ones in our community. While Lecompton was a pro-slave community, Topeka was a freedom community. And we were not very far away. Today, because we drive in cars, but back then it was a long ways away. And there was fighting going on between the two. And when Missouri came in like a flood and said, we want you to join the rest of us for pro-slavery, Kansas said no. And Topeka said no. We're not going to do it. Lawrence was almost completely wiped out because they said no in Contrail's raid. That's where we come up with the Jayhawkers. That's where we come up with that title Border Wars, and we think it's all about football. No, it was a whole lot more than that. Because of the history and the heritage of the people who said, no, it's not right. What I'm saying to you today is it's time to say no again. Well, finally, February 1st, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln signed the proposed 13th Amendment to be ratified by the states in the heat of this great battle, which cost more lives than all wars combined until the War on Terror, of all World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, took more American lives by us killing each other over this particular issue. I'm not advocating that again, for sure, but we're advocating that people have to make a decision. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Ratified by the states later, but signed February 1st, 1865, which now today we call National Freedom Day, which this last February 1st was the 70th year of examining that by Harry Truman that said we need to make a holiday out of it, and probably most of us didn't even know it was a holiday. So, the good news is slavery's done in America. Right? Or not? 150 years ago abolished, and yet there are more people in slavery today than any other time of our history. That's globally. Globally. But unfortunately, today, and that's what we're going to try to determine through our Safe Streets meetings and through this community, what is the real picture going on in Topeka and around our country, and what do we do about it? Why is human trafficking or modern-day slavery so popular? Well, if you can see over here, sexual exploitation produces about $99 billion around the world. That's no small chump change. As a matter of fact, modern-day slavery today in sexual slavery is second only to illegal drug production. And you've probably heard this before, but if you haven't, the reason for its popularity is you make a drug once, you ship it once, you use it once, and you got to start over again. With a person, now we're beginning to find that you can use them over and over and over again. And there's a whole crop of them. We're going to talk about that in a minute, why there's a whole crop of people who are potentially going to be used this way, and you can make a whole lot more money. And they believe by the end of this decade, it will be the #1 most profitable way to make money illegally in the whole wide world. So there's domestic servitude, a little bit of forced labor exploitation, sexual exploitation globally. Every year in the United States, thousands of human trafficking cases are reported, but many go unnoticed, as we saw in that video. Human trafficking is a hidden crime. Victims might be afraid to come forward, or we may not recognize the signs. Even if it's happening right in front of us, we need to bring this crime out of the shadows. And I believe that in part, this community is beginning to do that. In part, that's what's happening in this world, in this country. So, this is the poverty map, the neighborhood health map of Topeka proper. Most of you have seen this before, but if you haven't seen it before, it's got different colors. The blue would be called the healthy part of our community. The light blue would be called a part that's in need of care. The pink would be called needed hospitalization, and the red would be called intensive care. And so this is just the poverty view, but you see there's quite a bit of red and some pink in our community in regards to poverty. Most of you probably know that there's about close to an 80% eligibility for free or reduced lunches in Topeka Public School System. Ron, how many kids? 14,000, 13,000 kids in Topeka Public Schools? 80% of those are eligible for free or reduced. What that translates out to be is that we have a lot of families who are struggling to make ends meet, and so those kids are in need of help, and their families are as well. Okay, that's statistics. What else do you see when you see this? What's a word that comes to your mind when you look at the red? Anybody? It's red. It's bad. Feels bad. Poverty. There's a word here that will be very important in our discussion about human trafficking, and that word is vulnerability. When you're hungry, you're vulnerable. When you don't have a good social interworking and connection, you're vulnerable. When you don't have a stable home life, there's a lot of violence in your neighborhood, gunshots. When you do not have a sewer line that works where you can flush your toilet, when you have mold in your house, when you don't have heat in the winter or cooling in the summer, when you don't have a lot of things, you are vulnerable. And vulnerable people are more subjected to people who will take advantage of them. And so what we have in our community, as well as every other community, is not just red and poverty. That's just a name with some statistics to it. But what we have is a lot of people who are potential candidates for what we call human trafficking or gang involvement or whatever you want to call it in our community, that are living in situations that we would never have dreamed of. Unfortunately, statistics will show that most human trafficking victims have been sexually assaulted as a child. Now, you in law enforcement, you know how bad this really is. Those of you who are in social services, you know how bad this really is. You know the epidemic we have in our country in regards to children being abused. It's off the charts. Today, with the proliferation of the internet, and those different things that children are exposed to at a very early age, that begins to affect their brain. If a child is assaulted sexually at 3, 4, 5 years old by a family member most of the time, or somebody that's very close to the family, by the time that they're 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, their brain has changed. The way they look at life has changed, and now they are more susceptible to making bad decisions, and now they become a vulnerable citizen, and that's what the traffickers are looking for. I will tell you, if we go into this, which I hope we will, if we join together to declare war on human trafficking, modern-day slavery in Topeka and Shawnee County, we're going to run into the most difficult, comprehensive, complicated set of conditions that will ever be found. But not unlike it was back in the 1800s, when people would have to give up something in order for somebody else to be free. People would have to come up with systems, not unlike any war, World War I, II, Vietnam, the war on terror, the war on poverty, the war on drugs. All of those have consequences to them, of complications, and that's why there's no easy fix. Unless you drop a bomb somewhere, and it wipes out a whole bunch of people, but that isn't the way to do it. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Little girl one time in one of our community centers, I was asked to speak at. I walked in, and she said, I was asking names of the kids, and they were telling me their names as we were around the table. And I got to this one girl, and I could tell she was just having a bad day. She was in the 7th grade. And I said, what's your name? And she said, nobody. And I said, oh, that's okay, everybody's somebody. And I said, what's your name? She said, my name is nobody. Nobody. And so she had a University of Georgia sweatshirt on her that she probably got out of a thrift store. She looked like she'd really been having a bad day. She was in poverty. And I said, I bet your name's Georgia. All the other kids laughed. And she looked at me with a defiant look in her face and just stared right into my eyes. She said, "I told you my name is nobody." I thought, what are we going to do with that? I got a whole bunch of kids looking at me. I got some teachers looking at me, some rec center people looking at me, and she's looking at me. And do I go past that to say, "Oh, sorry, you're nobody"? Or do I fight with her? You've heard of fight, flight, or freeze? I wanted to flight and get out of there. I said, I can't freeze. We will run into complicated situations like we do every day. I thought of this as I prayed. I said, God, what do I do? And I felt like he said, ask the other kids what her name is. And they said, her name is Susie. And I said, Susie, that's your name? That is your name. And she just really didn't want to talk to me, and she was angry. And I said, everybody knows your name. The vulnerabilities that people face, and when they feel like nobody, will lead them to make unwise decisions when other people will come along and make them feel like somebody who's not a good person. And there are individuals who are equipped and trained because of the financial or because of the social or because of the acceptance or because of the power that will look for Susies to be able to recruit them to do something for them at some point, and they can't get out of it. On your table today is a sheet that is entitled A Portrait of a Human Trafficking Victim in Topeka. If you don't do anything else today, I want you to take that home and read it, because that's a composite of a real story that you will read about the vulnerability that happens to Susies. Now, the good part of that story is, after I got done reading stories to kids and we had a little bit of fun, had some tacos, Susie did come up to me, and she had a piece of paper and a pencil in her hand, and she handed it to me and says, I want your autograph. And I said, why do you want my autograph? And she says, because you're somebody. And I said, I'll tell you what, Susie, I'll swap you autographs, because so are you. So are you. The question is, are we going to know that this is going on? To realize that people are coming into our neighborhoods that are part of us, or are we going to do something different? I asked a group of young men the other day, I said, how many of you have a little son or a daughter? Half of them raised their hands. They were a really young group. So I said, how many have a little brother or sister? The rest of them raised their hands. And I said, what if you knew that a Russian military person was coming in uniform, or a North Korean, or an Al-Qaeda, or ISIS person came into your neighborhood and they were going after your son or your daughter or your brother or sister in your school, in your community center, at the mall, down the street in your neighborhood, and they were going to try to take them out to destroy them? What would you do? And they said, well, we'd destroy them. Yeah, we'd stop them. I said, what if they didn't have a uniform on? What if they didn't have a uniform on? What would you do then? And they were confused, because we're so used to only doing that which our mind understands, that our eyes can see. And what we must do is understand what we're not seeing right now, because our mind does not understand it. The question is, are we really ready to go to war? Like our ancestors were in Kansas and in Topeka, and to not hurt other people physically who are trying to destroy our sons and our daughters, but do we want to go to war to destroy their system, because their systems are good for them? Their systems are working. As a matter of fact, I talked to one of our social service agencies yesterday, and there is a known trafficker in our community who is going up to their door and knocking on it and waving, and they know he's a trafficker, and there are vulnerable citizens on the other side of that door, and he's getting by with it. He's getting by with it. I could tell you his name today, but this is on film, and so I'm not going to do that, because he might be watching, but you better be watching. That's declaring war, because they've declared war on our kids. Let's go back to Kansas again. Rich heritage here. National Freedom Day, February 1st. So when you declare war, you go to leaders. That's why we're coming to you today. You are leaders within this community in one sense or another. We were able to go to the Kansas House and the Senate, and we asked them for a declaration of war on February 1st. We had about a 2-week window to get this done this year. The 70th anniversary of when Harry Truman signed it, commemorating 1865 when President Abraham Lincoln signed it, and that's Blaine Finch and Martha Mary Good there up to the podium, and we had 125 House members stand up with an applause and saying, the state of Kansas, from the House of Representatives, is declaring war on modern-day slavery, human trafficking, and they put it in writing. Later that afternoon, Ty Masterson down there on the left did the same thing with 40 senators, have every single one of those senators put their name on a resolution, not a proclamation, not something that says, oh, we proclaim. That's nice. A lot of people do that. But this was a resolution. Being it so resolved that we declare war. What's the significance of that? The state of Kansas has become the first state in the union right now, and maybe the whole state across the whole wide world, to say as a state, we are recognizing this as a problem and we're declaring war against it. That's pretty significant. As Ty Masterson said, it's only a piece of paper unless we do something about it. That's exactly right. The question we have, let me back up here a minute. Forgot a very essential point. We have met with our city manager, Mr. Trapp, our mayor, our Shawnee County commissioners, our district attorney. We met with our chief, had meetings with our sheriff. We have had meetings with our council members, all except 2 now. And what we are proposing to do is do exactly what they did. And I think one of these days, maybe this month, those leaders of both city and county will be standing together in a joint press conference to declare war on human trafficking and modern-day slavery in Topeka, Shawnee County. What's the significance of that? The Kansas state leaders, including Governor Brown back before he led, he did sign a proclamation, are agreeing with the state that we must declare war on this. Not say, well, that's a bad problem, I hope somebody fixes it, but declare war. And our city and county leaders will stand together and say, you know what? We're going to be not only the first state in the country to do this, we're going to be the first city and county to do it, to be a Freedom Now USA city county to declare war on human trafficking. That's no small thing. Here's the question. We all have busy lives. I'm into boats in Kansas, you know. Couldn't think of anything else. The question is my life about living on a cruise ship? Is my life about living with the safety of cruising along and enjoying life? And I'm probably speaking to the choir here because you're involved in Safe Streets. But anybody who is watching this and people who come along after this, do I just want to get by and just feel really bad for the red parts of our community or those people who suffer? Or do I want to find fault with them and say, well, you know, prostitution, I mean, that's just what they want to do, you know? I mean, yeah, it's too bad over in Germany that they have 1 million transactions for sex legally every single day in Germany right now. Their brothel industry has exploded, and now they're recruiting people from all over the world because they can't find enough sex workers in Germany. They got to recruit them in. They're being trafficked in to be able to have sex with 1 million customers per day. Yeah. Yeah. While Thailand is cracking down on it. Thailand is saying this is wrong. This is bad. This is not good for the economy. Matter of fact, I had a Thai prosecutor here twice here recently who's come in here to say, let's see what we can do with you. The question is, do we want to go through life on a cruise ship or do we want to go through life on a battleship? Because if you're going to declare war, you're not going to win too many wars that way. Those cruise ships sink, but they never were effective. They come down in history as saying, well, that was failed. The question is, do we want to declare war? Do we want to be a battleship? And you say, man, that's a big subject. That's a little bit more than I can handle. That's more than I have understanding. Maybe it sounds a little dangerous. Yeah, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. In 2014, the Topeka Rescue Mission reached out to 4 victims of human trafficking. We thought that was quite a bit. In 2015, it went to 45 victims of trafficking. In 2016, 92, or 2016, 92, what year are we in? In 2017, it was 131 victims of trafficking. How are we finding all them? We're not. People are getting smarter, more understanding. At least half of our referrals are coming from the hospitals because now their eyes are seeing something that their minds are beginning to understand. And Stormont Vail, and I believe St. Francis soon, has an assessment tool that will be able to flag human trafficking victims potentially. And so they give us a call. We're not the only one. There's others on the front lines of this battle we'll talk about in a minute. But here's the good news. When you're feeling alone and you're feeling like you're taking fire, you're not alone. We're part of an armada if we come together. We're part of a group of people who are willing to go to war together and not alone. And that's huge. The Safe Streets Coalition has been known for taking on big goals. The Safe Streets Coalition has been known to gather people together that want to be a part of the big goal. That's why we came here. That's why we talked to Christy and Michelle. We said, we think we already got something here in Topeka. We don't have to start something. We already got something. And so, how about let's declare war together? This comes from a human trafficking former victim, Alex. The strongest thing we have isn't our fists, it's our words. If what we do, so fight. Alex, a childhood victim of sex trafficking, an informant for the FBI. Are we going to go to war? Or are we going to let that kind of thing happen to nobodies? Famous American song was penned as a poem on September 14th of 1814 by a 35-year-old lawyer, amateur poet by the name of Francis Scott Key. After witnessing the bombardment of Fort McHenry by the British ships from the Royal Navy in Baltimore Harbor during the Battle of Baltimore, the War of 1812, he penned these words, "Oh, say can you see, by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight over the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare and the bombs bursting in the air gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're going to discover we're not the land of the free. We're going to discover, as we go through this, that there are many slaves in America today. There are. And if it doesn't get under your skin, I don't know what to tell you. As the weeks go by and the months go by, this coalition is going to be exposed to some information that's going to make you cry, it's going to make you mad, it's going to make you sad. It's going to make you want to do something. But the question is, if we're not free, like we sing at every ball game and every major event that we have, are we going to be brave? Are we going to be brave? Is this a generation that will be like the ancestors of one person that's working with Freedom Now USA? His name is Pete Bostwick. His great-great-grandparents moved from New York, gave up their livelihoods to settle in northeast Kansas to be a part of the Underground Railroad system. And they sheltered more slaves than Pete will ever probably know. Also, John Brown, not advocating John's method, spent the last night of his life in Kansas in their home. Pete came to the awareness that his ancestors had given up a lot to be able to come here to do this. And he said, I want to do something with my life that has significance for others. Pete's just one guy that has joined with us. Are we going to know that she's not free? That nobody's not free? Are we going to step in and try to prevent her from becoming a victim of trafficking? The question is, are we going to declare war together? Today, hopefully, has been just a little bit of stirring in your hearts. Today has been one of those things to give you kind of the overview. Next month, when we come to Safe Streets, we're going to give you the battle plan. So come and bring people with you. The following month after that, which will be May, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce you to some of the commanders in the battle plan that are going to be going through training between here and there. Some of those commanders are going to be people who are going to give up their time and their lives, inconvenienced, to be able to come around like we did before and fill this entire building with people who are going to war. And in the process of that, what we're going to do is we're going to stand behind the Topeka-Shawnee County Human Trafficking Coalition that's on the front lines today. We're going to stand behind the YWCA Center for Safety Empowerment that's on the front lines today. We're going to stand behind Topeka Rescue Mission Restore Hope, which I mentioned before. We're going to stand behind Topeka Public Schools and all the school districts that are faced with this horrendous challenge that they have. We're going to stand behind Ron Brown. And we're going to stand behind Seaman, who's going through the fire right now, and Washburn Rural and Shawnee Heights. We're going to stand behind them. We're going to stand behind all of our law enforcement agencies, and if I miss one of you, Police Department, Shawnee County Sheriff's Department, the District Attorney, Shawnee County Department of Corrections, Park Police, State Attorney General. There's an information on your table by Derek Schmidt. KBI, Kansas Highway Patrol, Federal Marshal's Office, all those people we're working with right now, but they need our help. We're going to stand behind our state agencies and our local leaders here and our state leaders, as I mentioned. And here's this. We're going to need to stand behind the Department of Children and Families. People go, wow, I don't want to do that. They got problems. Yeah, they do. Why do they have problems? Because the magnitude of the problems they're facing is bigger than they can handle. Statistically, in the United States, of children who become runaways, that become trafficked, 88% of them came out of foster care. What's wrong with foster care in the United States? That's not Kansas, that's nationally. 88% of those children that ran away, that became human trafficked, ran away from foster care. Right now, as I understand it, there's 7,300 foster children in Kansas right now. There's about 1/4 of the necessary beds for foster kids. Where's the 3/4 going? So we don't have time to point fingers. We don't have time to say, look what you're doing wrong. We don't have time to say, it's your problem, not mine. We need to find time to say, how can we step in and support you and work with you and lift up Gina Meyer Hummel, who's the new director of DCF. That's what a team does when they go to war. We need to stand by our medical and mental health and social services, our neighborhood groups, which are represented always here, and we need to stand together if we're going to truly become the first capital city and county in the United States to declare war on human trafficking. And if we do this well, the hope is they'll be doing it in Lawrence, in Manhattan, Wichita, Kansas City. We're going to Kansas City this week to be able to talk to some leaders there. I want to close with this. There's an individual by the name of Christine Dolan. She is considered probably one of the experts globally on human trafficking. She's a former political analyst, investigative reporter for CNN. She speaks at countries, parliaments, Dubai, Australia. She's a featured speaker at the International National Prayer Breakfast, and she became aware of what we're doing in Topeka, Kansas. I've been on the phone, I haven't met her in person, but I've been on the phone with this gal who doesn't mince with words, because she's seen the atrocities and the horror that's going on around the world and what's going on in this country, and she's very angry. She's taken on Mark Zuckerberg. Everybody knows that name. She's not afraid of anybody. Matter of fact, Scotland Yard has hired her for investigations as an investigative reporter. She said, I'm interested in what you're doing. I said, Christine, why are you interested in what's going on in Topeka, Kansas? She says, because I think you guys get it. Okay, what do we get? You understand the package. You understand vulnerabilities. You understand that this is not a law enforcement issue or a social service issue. It is a community issue, and you've done this through Safe Streets before. You've done it through different interactions. You've done it by your neighborhood interventions. And she said, also, what America needs is a win. She said, nobody's declared war on this. They've talked about it, but nobody's declared war on this. Your state leaders and your local leaders are getting ready to declare war, and if you will come together, she said, I'll come to Topeka. And she said, I'll invest my time here. I will train your people. We will work together because America needs a win. And she said, I think we can do it in Topeka, Kansas. And she said, I think we can do it in one other county that's a smaller county, and we're looking at Garden City right now. So what I'm saying that for is there's an opportunity that you're on the front lines with as pioneers to be able to step in just like pioneers did years ago, like Pete Bostwick's family did, to step out of their comfort zone in their businesses in New York and come out to a place called Kansas. And I've seen pictures of these people. They look like they haven't had a bath in about 3 months. I mean, they're really living it rough to do an underground railroad to be able to make a difference for the vulnerable in our country, in our community. So, next month, if you choose to come back, give you the battle plan. Month after that, we're going to introduce you to some battle plan leaders. And in June, my hope, we fill this building up, my hope is the Safe Streets Coalition, in partnership with Freedom Now USA, the first city county in the country to declare war on human trafficking, We'll be able to go to a bigger building because we're going to be able to take this out to the community. What Safe Streets has always been good about, this coalition, is taking the information here and disseminating out through the community to get more soldiers on the team. Yeah, Lansing beat us because they cheated. But what we had during the journey is a phenomenal experience of coming together that helps set the stage for a number of other things that are positive in this community today. That happened here. I believe that because of you. So thank you for listening to this today. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you the vision of going to war for those who are suffering. Because next month when we talk to you about this suffrage, you're going to be like me. You want to go do something about it. And that thing that I wanted to do about it probably would end up in the county. But instead of destroying somebody, let's come together to create a system that is better than theirs for those who are broken. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you all back here first Wednesday in April. Folks, thank you so much for coming out, and thank you to our friends at the Rescue Mission and Barry Feaker. Give them all a nice round of applause here.